Hi, I'm Diane McGarry with Drake Arts. Thank you for joining me today for our September 2024 Arts Saturday performance with flutist Trisha Craig. Trisha specializes in 20th century and contemporary repertoire and performs in solo chamber, large ensemble settings throughout the region. She has been a featured soloist in the Macroom, Ireland International Music Festival, as well as several New England arts festivals. Her training includes a Bachelor's of Music from Ithaca College and a Master's of Music from Longy School of Music, where she studied with Robert Willoughby. Trisha performs regularly as principal flautist with the Irish Tenors Orchestra and has recently played with Julie Collins and Celtic Women. Her solo concerts are favorites among museums, art galleries, and other small venues. She is known for bringing the music and its time periods to life while engaging the audience in lively conversation. This year marks Trisha's 50th anniversary of playing flute. So she is going to do 50 years of fluting with the Yellow Book. That's what she's going to do for us today. Hear the progression of flute playing techniques through these wonderful world classics. Accompanying her is pianist Barbara Flocco. Barbara is also an accomplished organist, and she has performed both in the United States and abroad. Here they are.
Awesome. So that was Scherzino by Anderson. Scherzino, by the way, means a little joke. So that's a fun little jokey way to start our presentation today. Everything I'm playing today comes from this very classic flute book, 24 short concert pieces, edited by Robert Cavally. I've been using it since I was a child, and I have been teaching out of it through my entire career. And Barb and I have done a lot of these pieces together, but also she has accompanied many of my students over the years, and so I wanted to do this as a celebration of that collaboration and this milestone for me. So this next piece is Andalus by Pesar. when I'm teaching this one, I don't know if you've experienced this, Barb, but there's some black lines. It's not that fast, but the kids see it and then they go, blah, blah, and they just go crazy on that one. And I think it's very, very difficult and they can't believe it. And so it takes a while for them to...
Not just kids either.
It takes a while for them to calm down on that one. So we're going to go Baroque. This is a movement from Quantz. When I'm teaching, a lot of times this is one of the first sort of big class Baroque pieces that the kids learn. And the way I teach Baroque music is I try to get them to play it the way it would sort of sound on a Baroque flute, which is a wooden instrument. And so not so much brilliance, a little bit more lightness. And so it's a good challenge for them, and it's fun to teach. So this next one, this one's a project piece for some of the more advanced students when they get to this part of the book, because it has two different types of rhythms in it, and so it can be quite a challenge. So it doesn't get performed very often by my students because they get a little overwhelmed by it, but it's a very, very famous piece by Gluck. offertoire. This one is by Donjon, another French. There's a lot of French pieces in this book. And what I do with the students, and when they work with Barb too, we talk about what the music means, and so I make them look up the terms. And offertoire is a word that I make them look up, and it's an offertory. And a lot of times the kids, except for one religion, all the Catholic kids know what an offertory is. But everybody else, they have to look it up and understand what's happening when you're making an offering. And so that's what this piece is about, and offertoire by Donjon. Okay, before we play this one, this next one is called Hungarian Serenade. It's by another French composer, Jean Sierre. A lot of the pieces in this book are one of very few of each of these composers for flute. So they're special little nuggets. This one's called Hungarian Serenade. It was very popular at the time to travel abroad and get inspired and come back to France and write a piece of music that had something to do with the inspiration that you found when you went abroad. So he had gone to Hungary, and he came back and wrote this Hungarian Serenade. And when I work on it with students, we try to get into the spiciness of it, and I have them read about Hungary and maybe try Hungarian foods. And one of the students really embraced it, and for every year, for a long time, I had an advanced recital every summer, and students were chosen to be on it, and it was a very, very big deal. And this one girl was very excited to play this piece because she found the right dress. Do you remember the dress? And when I came in today, Barb says, "Where's your red dress?" Because she said, "I got a red dress for this piece." And so she really was embracing the spicy Hungarianness. And for a couple of years after that, some of the younger kids were like, "I want to play the red dress piece." Made quite an impression. So this is the Hungarian Serenade by Jean Sierre. I'm sure people are clapping like crazy at home, right? Not used to a silent hall. So this next one, I have a couple stories to go with this one. It's by Bach. It's the Bodnery from his Suite in B minor, and it's it's a challenging one to teach. The kids get a little overwhelmed by it, but that's not the point. The point of this one is that I was telling Barb back when I was an undergraduate student at Ithaca College, James Walker came with his group called Free Flight, and they were, he had been principal in a major symphony, I think San Francisco, or a major symphony, and he was a flashy player, and he wanted to have like a jazzy ensemble, but he had no jazz skills. And so what he did was he pulled together really great jazz combo, bass, drums, keyboard, and he played the classical repertoire, speeded up, cranked up a few notches with the jazz combo underneath so that it sounded really cool. And it was this, only flutists liked it because it was so sort of decadent. But he came to Ithaca College while I was there, and I got to see him perform this piece. And it was like 500 times faster than you would ever play it in the Baroque style. And I wonder what Bach would have thought. He might have thought it was super cool. I don't know. But so whenever I play this, I hear it started with a little really tight drum roll. And so when I hear this, I hear this little drum roll before we start. But I'm going to play it in a very more traditional Bach-esque style for today. If we have a cymbal or drum roll, something, I don't know. Did we skip one?
We skipped the Sicilian
How did that happen?
and the Bizet.
Oh, we skipped some, and we're going to add them back in now because they're awesome. Why didn't you keep me?
Well, I was like, well, I like Bach.
Okay. So the Sicilian, the Fare. So this one. Well, when I first started teaching this one, let me just find the page. I don't know how that happened. I think I just turned a page and went rogue. This one, the Sicilian, this is by Fare. Fare was really important in flute repertoire because when he was the director or the president of the Paris Conservatoire, he was the one who would commission pieces to be performed for the Premier Prix competition. So a lot of the French repertoire that we have in our playing ability on our repertoire list is thanks to Fare. Students can never say foire, so my favorite pronunciation is when they say foire. I like that. And now, years ago when I first started teaching, kids didn't like this one. They have a hard time getting their head around the rhythms. But now it's a favorite because they all think that it sounds like Harry Potter. We cast a spell. And that shows what a great accompanist can do for you. You can skip pieces and they still play. Kids can, you can wait too long to come in and they just keep doing something for you. It makes it seamless, and it makes it really easy for teaching. When I send a student off to work with Barb, I know that they can skip a page and she'll just clean it up.
So will I.
It's hard to learn to play collaboratively. Most of my flute students play in band at school, and then they have their lessons by themselves. And so when they go off and they work with the piano for the first time, it's overwhelming, and it's hard to, it's hard to hear the rhythms. And Barb and I were remembering a student from 100 years ago who, she was little when she started studying with me, and I think she was probably, 8 when she did her first accompanied piece. And it was just a little beginner piece, and it had the piano, and she went off. She was so excited to work with Mrs. Flocco, and she went off and had her rehearsal, and she came back and to her next lesson, and I said, "How did it go?" And she's like, she had this weird look on her face. Good, yeah, it was good. And I said, "What did you think?" And she goes, "Oh, it's really hard to ignore the piano." I was like, whoops, I didn't explain something properly. I don't know. It's one of my favorite responses. So don't ignore the piano. Try to work together, make music together. This next one that we're going to play, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but I looked through this book. This is my original copy from when I was a kid of the book that we're playing out of today. And I went through it and looked, my flute teacher used to put the date, including the year. I only put today's date. Maybe I should put the year when I assign things to the kids. And the earliest date in this book was from October of 1979. And I played this, that must have been the piece that I played on a concert. Let me just find the piece. Yeah, I played, I'll tell you which piece it is when we get to it, but I played on this concert, and it was a recital of my at the music school that I was taking lessons, and I remember there was a senior flute student, so 79, I must have been like 8th or 9th grade maybe, and there was a senior, and she was so grown up, she was so beautiful, and she had black hair, and I just thought she was amazing. And her big concert piece was this next one that we're going to do now, the Minuet by Bizet. And I just dreamt of someday being able to be just like her and play this piece. And so when I finally did, it was so exciting. And I think I played it like a few months later and realized, that it wasn't as big a deal as I thought. But I've always loved this, and I think the girl's name was Leah, if I remember correctly. So Leah, if you're out there, you inspired me. Leah Doris Folks, flute student who played this minuet probably in 1979. So that's when I was inspired. I love this piece. It's a tricky one for the students because it takes a lot of embouchure, and so it's hard for them to not just blast things out when they do this one. We've heard some blasters, but I'm finally going to perform it after being inspired in 1979. lost my tissue, I lost my water. Okay, what's next? Pan. Hold on, I need a swig of water. I don't know where that tissue went. Okay. All right. No, I put it in my sleeve. I had a tissue in my sleeve and it is now gone. Thank you. Oh, thank you. We have a whole staff here. Pull yourself together, and she will. She pulls herself together. She's the best. Okay. All right, so this next one, we have two left. This next one, it's called Pan. There's lots of music for flute written surrounding the Pan mythology. Pan and Cavally, which is a similar mythology. Pan, of course, was the inspiration for the pan flute, and he was half goat, half man, and he was a bit of a stalker, and he would stalk the nymphs and force them to be his girlfriend, so we'll say, and they didn't like him. So that, but he, because of the pan flute thing, there's lots and lots of flute music based on the pan mythology. I've often threatened to do a whole pan concert. Would that be fun? Of using all the different pieces based on the pan mythology, or Syrinx as Cavally as well, the American sort of version of it. This one is the earliest date I have in this book is for this piece, so I suspect it's the first piece I performed out of this book. There's no way to know for sure, but and it's often the first piece that my students play out of this book, and I have them learn about pan. And the interesting thing is that the pan mythology stuff mostly started with the introduction of the modern flute, because it was the first instrument for us to be able to chromaticize, fully chromaticize. And so a lot of the composers were excited to put music on this instrument that could do a little bit more than the flute prior to that time period. So this piece is Pan Pastorelle by Donjon. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to end with this Allegretto by Godard, another French composer. And this piece was written when he was, it's late 1800s, I think. I don't have the date here. But he was in an office upstairs in a building in Paris. And he was looking out over the streets of Paris at the bustle and all the different characters and all the different things going on. And he wrote this piece. So you can hear, when I work on it with the kids, the entrance is a little funky for them because it's not so clear. You'll see what I mean. But I tell them the piano is the pulse. That's the pulse of the city. And the flute is all the little vignettes that are happening in Paris. So picture parasols and the fancy dresses and the men in suits and horse and buggies and all of those things happening all over the streets of Paris when it was first a modern city. Well, thank you to all of my students. Thank you to, I taught in Drake for a long time, so thank you to all the students that I've ever worked on this book with. And thank you especially to Barb and to Drake Arts and for making this possible, because I've long wanted to do a concert of the Yellow Book. So this is really, really fun collaboration, and was a great time remembering all my students and appreciating all that I've gotten from them too. So thank you. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much, Trisha. Thank you for sharing this progression with us and these different time periods of classical music. And thank you to our very many sponsors for making this program possible. If you'd like to help, please consider donating through our website, draketarts.com/donate/. For more information about our Art Saturdays and other programs, go to draketarts.com or email us at draketarts@gmail.com. This and all our programs are archived on the Drake Arts YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@DrakeItArts. Thank you so much for joining us today.